I would have been here late if I weren't going to be talking.
Come in the front row.
Nah, let her, you
I
can be in
know,
the outer
introvert.
circle and chill.
Oh, I know too.
All right, good morning. So I'm Julie Genovese. I think I've met all of you so far, but so this morning, talking about co-creating, and living outside the lines. I was born into this situation. My dwarfism, my arthritis, the last thing I wanted to do was live outside the status quo. You know, I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to blend in. I wanted to kind of be invisible because my presence always brought negative attention, not positive attention. I got positive attention from my family, but outside my inner circle, it was stares and questions and humiliation. And so one of my goals became to fit in. And I didn't realize at the time that this is a human, rite of passage, that all the other kids also had a sense they wanted to fit in, even if they were rebelling. They wanted to find other rebels. They wanted to find their community. So we're pack animals. We want to belong. We want to connect. But I thought that meant I could get their approval and their love and garner their appreciation. And when that didn't work, after years of feeling lesser and lesser and lesser of a person, I hit bottom in my 20s and ended up realizing that love and validation was not going to come from outside me. And this at first was so depressing, but then it got me to go inside. Just like the last place we look, but the place to align with who we really are, why we're really here, what our highest self, our soul, is asking of us. So ultimately those challenges, those things that make us feel less than or outside the box are the very ones that are going to ask us to go, inside ourselves to find that intuition, that GPS, that feeling on purpose in our own life, not by other people's standards or our family's idea or, Harvard professor's idea of what their child should do. Somewhere, I think we all feel broken by other people's expectations. And that could be our own family, or it could be the school system saying over and over, you need to do this in order to be good enough or have money or be a good citizen. Whatever it is, we're always getting that message, but it's sometimes not direct, and it was tearing me up inside. Because it wasn't in alignment with who I was and what I came for. I came to stand out, to offer a certain message. I fought that. I think we all do. That's part of this universal being in the darkness, this duality, that we are a shining light of consciousness and beauty, and yet we're put in a body that has to be taken to the bathroom and fed and taken care of, and people judge it, and it hurts, and it's heavy because gravity is working on us. All these things are blindfolds to who we really are. But I think it's by design. It's to, shovel on as much dirt and fertilizer until we finally go, oh my God, I'm gonna. And then up above, in the rarefied air, with our soul, often in our desperation, we find, what's really calling me? What do I really want? If I can't get their love and approval, then I might as well satisfy something in me. And when I started to do that, and it was by attending to my art, my creativity, I started reading self-help books and collecting quotes that inspired me and made me feel a part of things. So when I receded and went, okay, forget all of you, I can't be a part of that world, and I went inside, that's where I found the connection. And that's where I suddenly felt like, oh, I am one of you. This is a universal fear that we're disconnected and we're separated and we'll always live that way because of this body. But the body is not separating our energetic spirit or consciousness or whatever you want to call it. Like mine's touching you right now. It's probably out in the room and yours, mine, me. So we are this oneness here even though we're separate. And it's the paradox of living on earth. So as I was, fighting and grasping and wishing I belonged, my soul was like, just waiting. It's a quiet part of us, so often we find it in quiet outdoors or with music, or everybody has their way of finding themselves back home. And I went to that, my art. I didn't know I was a writer at the time, but I was collecting quotes and loving writers without knowing that was going to be something I launched into later in my life. But living outside the lines, co-creating, unschooling, all of that, if you told me that in my early 20s, I would have been, what? I am working to be a part of things. Don't you understand? Because I think everyone I've met who has been honest with me, and of course not like I've met that many people in the world, but it seems like such a common thing that we, in our times of greatest alignment and exuberance and love and excitement, and we were shut down. Someone said, don't, shine that light, that excitement. So I hear it so great. Kids come in and out. They can be loud. They're part of the energy. But not us. We didn't grow up in that. I don't know. Did anyone here, were they encouraged to just, be free and excited? And
I still feel uneasy when kids walk in. And I feel...
Right. This isn't right. Yeah.
Like, I still do that to my kids.
Yeah.
When I see that I can't take it.
Yeah.
Right? I still feel
it is. It's our knee-jerk reaction because that's what happened to us. And it's pretty traumatic to be shut down when we're in that moment of connection with the best. Because then we're given that message, well then that's wrong. Because they said it's wrong. Instead of still saying, but that felt right to me, so that must be okay. I'm still getting there. I still have moments of wanting my kids to not look so outside the lines, or, I fear for them that they'll be shut down. But they have a whole different experience. So when they see someone come down on them, like my dad had powerful anger, and he was very controlling of us growing up. When he attempted to do that with my sons, and my heart would be like, because that's Dad, I can't talk about my dad. They would just look at him like, what, are you crazy, man? And one time, and the first time, and maybe the last time since my dad died, I stood between my son and him and said, I got this, Dad. And his face went, like, redder than red, purple red, like he wanted to kill me because I was saying, you can't control him. And really, he couldn't control himself. And I was his daughter, little, going, I got this. It was my son's birthday. He spent the whole day away from the house. He didn't speak to me for 3 days, and they left on the 4th day. That's how much control meant to him. And I was saying, and I didn't even do it in a powerful way. I just did it in a, I'm protecting my son kind of a way. And he was furious. And I wrote him maybe a month later an email to open the communication and say, gosh, I was so triggered, or I don't know how I said it, by my own fear of my childhood and how much your anger made me think I was so bad and wrong, and I didn't want my sons to soak that up. And yet later, my son just said, gosh, Oompa, they called him Oompa. Oompa was really pissed. You know, but he didn't seem to think it was about him.
Right.
And it wasn't. That was the truth. Good morning.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah, I would be where you are if I weren't here. So we were dancing last night and it was late. So I didn't mean to go on and on about this part of it. The whole point of living outside the lines for me is creating my own life the way I see it be loving and compassionate and still connected to people, but I'm more importantly always going to connect with myself to determine where I go, what I do. And being here this week and seeing that we're all making those choices in different ways, but in one big way, because school is such an ingrained part of our society that, like, I just, high five to all of us for making a choice that's really difficult for that inner child that didn't get that love, that didn't feel safe. And now we want to give that to our kids. We want to live in a world where it's safe to be boldly, unabashedly ourselves. And in being boldly, unabashedly ourselves, we connect with others on a deeper, fuller level.
Right on cue.
Angel, where's that coming from? Is that the big breast in the sky?
It's my mindfulness bell.
Oh, Brandon, thank you. I love that.
It dings randomly throughout the day.
Were you not going to own that? Oh, I got to, is that an app?
Yeah.
I want that.
There's an app for
There's
that.
an app for that. There's an app for consciousness. There's an app for co-creating outside the line.
So let's do a check-in. Are you breathing?
I'm breathing.
Yeah.
What is the app?
It's called Mind Bell.
All
It's
right.
free.
Yeah, everybody take a really deep breath in. This is a great thing to have a reminder. It's so easy to be distracted. Squirrel, shiny object.
It's like my dog.
We joke about it in our house because I'm talking to my husband and I think it's really important, and then all of a sudden, boink, he says something about the grocery bag. I'm like, what? Squirrel? Who was that? But he's more extroverted, activity-oriented, and I'm more like, so I respond to that kind of reminder, whereas he responds to the outer, stimuli, get stuff done, which I need because I don't know that I would get it without him. So I want to give an example of how our own intention every day, our own intuition, our own path is really creating, in a really tangible way, our experience. And that our beliefs are sort of marching out in front of us and aligning things or not aligning things, bringing the people to us, pushing other people away. This was probably 5 years ago. I realized my license was about to expire. And it was the end of the month. It was a Friday, and it was noon, which is just the worst time in New Jersey. New Jersey's lines are horrible at the DMV. But I didn't want to go the next week on the Monday because my kids I'd have to bring them, and that would be even worse. So I'm like, all right, I gotta go. I'm gonna pack my book and my water and my snack, and I'll sit for the 2 hours at the DMV. And I'm driving and going, I can't believe I forgot. And what is it? I'd had a busy month and I just forgot. And I'm imagining the grumpy employees. They're pretty grumpy in New Jersey. I don't know about other places, but DMV employees are slow and they don't look at you, and I'm like, oh, and the air in there is stale, and the lines are awful and long. And then I went, what am I doing? I'm creating. I'm creating as I'm in my own thoughts. Those are reverberating out there. Like, woo, my red carpet in front of me, but in this case, my black carpet moving out in front of me going, this is going to be my experience. It's going to be awful. So I switched gears. Wayne Dyer, lots of people have always said, speak in the present tense about what you want as it is. So I'm like, okay, the lines are short. Oh, there are no lines. Like, there are no lines at the DMV, and the employees are so awesome. I make friends. I mean, I'm going to be there 2 hours. I make new friends. I have great conversation. Then I was getting going because it's raising my vibration. Just as I'm thinking of what could be, I start to become it. Like, I am. Very powerful words. Whatever you put after them, you're starting to put that out into the world. So I'm saying, so I am having fun, meeting new people, and I know it's already working because by the time I get there, I'm feeling better. I'm ready to sit and just enjoy my space. Like, what else can I do? I could have sat there for 2 hours and complained, but I realized, well, that's a waste of my precious time. So I walk in the door, and there's a parking place, right? I pull in and the place is packed. I mean, there are cars on the road. It's so bad on a Friday. And for a moment, my spirit is like, but then I was like, no, up. You're gonna do this. And I turn the corner of the parking lot and there's a space. And I'm like, okay, it's working. I go, all right, guardian angel, whoever's out there, let's make this a party at the DMV. Let's dance through this and enjoy it. So I walk in, and of course I bump right into a really long line. The people in front of me, they nicely hold the door, and we meet eyes and we smile. And then we're standing in line together, and I hear the man say something about, can you believe how much paperwork we have to gather to, prove our existence? It's not like that 6-point system. And I said, yeah, I had to search through tons of stuff to get my marriage certificate. I didn't know where it was. It's been 4 years since the last time, I'd redone my license. And we started cracking up over stuff. I don't even remember what it was, but we're already laughing. I'm like, this is working. I'm making friends at the DMV. Never done that before. I've always stood in a line like a good A student. I don't interact with anyone. So I look up ahead, and there are 2 women with the 2 lines. And the one woman is like this. She's like, it's like Sour Sally, I'm like, oh, bummer for her. This is not an easy job. I look over at the other line, and there's this gal. She's very animated. She's smacking her gum. She reminds me of Joan Rivers. She's like, what the heck? And I can't even hear what she's saying, but I like her. And I'm like, I want to be in Joan's, line. It's one line, but then it's going off to the 2 of them. And as we get closer and closer, and the guy in front of me and my new friend says, hey, the line's moving really quickly. I was like, get up. And as we get up, my new friends get Joan. I'm like, oh, I guess I'll go over to Sour Sally, but maybe I can brighten her day, because this can't be easy to be dealing with a 2-hour wait. So I'm standing there waiting, and Sal is so slow that I get to Joan beforehand, and as my friends walk off, I went, hi, because I'm like, oh, it worked. And she goes, well, hi, babe. And I said, I can't believe how fast this line is. I think it's you. You're so efficient. And she was like, okay, wait for the next line. And I was like, oh. I said, it's all right. I am ready to be here and to enjoy myself. And she was like, looking at me like, huh. And then she shuffles my paper, and she's so fast, gives it to me and goes, okay, go wait over there for a few months. I think she said a few minutes. And I was like, that's DMV for an hour. Mm-hmm. And I'm walking away, and I hear, Julia. I turn back around, and I go by Julie, but my real name is Julia. And it's Joan, and she's like sashaying over to me, and she goes, how are you going to pay? You know, credit, cash, what? I went, oh, credit card? And she goes, okay, just go sit for a sec. And so I sit down, I get my book out because I'm ready to hunker down. And I hear over the speaker, Julia Genovese, line 5. And I look up, I'm like, line 5, where's that? Because there are tons of different places, registration, license. And I look straight ahead of me, and there's nobody in this thing that says line 5. I'm like, well, that can't be right. But I gather my stuff up, and I go over to line 5, and there's a young woman back there with a smile. She's smiling. And I went, hi, I'm Julia Genovese. And she's like, She takes my stuff. She goes, do you need a new picture, or can we just use the old one? I'm like, yeah, the old one's fine. I'm thinking, what? I guess this is just prep work, and then I'll go back and sit down. And then she's continuing to do whatever, and I talk to the woman next to me. She's got this great coat. It's like full length, but it's got watercolor flowers on it. I'm like, where did you get that? She goes, this was my 50th birthday and my divorce gift. And I was like, well, you go. That's so cool. And all of a sudden, this woman with the bright smile goes, okay, here you go. And I look down, and it has the new date, and I'm like, am I done? She said, you're done. Oh, but, and I went, well, come, thank you. And I walk out, I'm sort of floating, and I realize it's been 10 minutes. And I'm like, wow, was that my intention? Because I said, this is going to happen, and it happened, and I go out in the parking lot, and I went, that was Joan. Joan put me through. She just said, like, I didn't know what happened. I saw her in the parking lot. I went, I'm going to go get my book and sign it and come back and thank her. Because I didn't thank her. I was such an ingrate. I didn't know it was her. But then it hit. So I go home. I get my book. I try and write an inscription, but I don't know her name. So I write, to my DMV angel, thank you for a magical time I'll never forget. I come back to DMV, and only Sour Sal is left. And I was like, who was the woman you were working with before? And she said, oh, Angela? I was like, my angel? I said, yes, is she still here? Oh, yeah, here oh, there she is. And she's walking toward me, and I was like, thank you. And we give each other a hug. And I said, you were an answer to a prayer. And she whispers in my ear, oh, babe, it was a 2-hour wait, and I couldn't do it to you. And someone said, and I was telling them the story, and they said, well, it was probably a disability thing. You know, they figured you, and I'm like, no, I've been to the DMV many times. Nobody has taken me aside and said, here, honey, you can go through in 10 minutes. I brought a different energy that day. I brought an intention. I was a co-creator in that experience. And I mean, that does not happen all the time, where I think I didn't have a lot invested in being happy at the DMV. It's like if you try and go to, say, a funeral with that kind of energy, you might not get exactly what, I don't know, I shouldn't say, because you all are creators in your own right, and when you take that energy that we have, powerful, soulful, whatever you want to call it, consciousness, and direct it with love and with intention and your intuition, amazing things happen. Angels show up at the DMV. And I even said, like, let's make it a dance. And it felt like a dance. It felt like I was part of a whole instead of an individual standing in a line. I wanted to be part of that DMV experience. But I didn't fully see how much that resonated out until I left and started putting it together in my mind and went, wow, we can turn our lives on a dime. We may not see the manifestation as soon as we want, because physically that's the lowest vibration. It takes the longest to say see prosperity or see physical, maybe you're a mate or whoever it is. But on the inside, I could feel the change. As I just decided, my experience is going to be better than it's been at the DMV in the past. I have evidence that it's bad, but I'm not going to push that evidence into the future. I'm going to say it's going to be different. And we can do that with whatever it is. I told this story last year, so sorry if it's a repeat, but I listened, I listened to Wayne Dyer. He was a mentor to me. I listened to his tapes over and over and over, so when I think I'm repeating myself, I go, well, that's okay. We all need reminders. I listened to his stories again and again, and I still got different things. And I ended up, interestingly enough, when you become connected to someone, and it was just in a purely energetic, I didn't know him, he ended up endorsing my book and inviting me on stage with him at my first event ever. So we are doing work up here and in here and around here that we don't even know is happening until life kind of puts the pieces together. And if I had known that Wayne Dyer was going to endorse my book and then call me up on stage and let me be me in front of 1,000 people, and I thought I was going to die. I didn't know he was going to do that. And I did not speak at that time, and I did it. He showed his faith in me. I showed enough of my faith in myself that I got my book out there. I wanted to, go public with all my skeletons and my insecurities because they brought me to a learning. I never imagined he'd be part of the journey in a physical way. So, my husband's ex, boom, 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 was so difficult and made us jump through all kinds of hoops to see his daughter. This was years ago now, she's 30, but I was amazed at how long she held on to her criticism of my husband and just regularly harangued him whenever she could, every phone call, whatever it was. Now, I didn't really have to deal with her because she was in California and we were in New Jersey. But when I became pregnant with my first son, I heard Bill on the phone with her, telling her, well, Julie's pregnant, and then I hear this pause and this, well, I don't really think that's any of your business. Well, I don't even, and I could tell an argument has begun. And so I asked him afterward, and he said, well, she said that you don't have any right to pass on your bad genetics. Yeah, I wish I'd laughed. I did not. I was like, what?
That's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Julie. Bad genetics.
You don't want any more like her.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a world full of Julies? Like, how awesome would that be? The world would like spin off its axis, a wall of energy. It's actually true. We'd probably end up hitting the sun. That would be bad.
Oh,
It
that'd
really
be
should.
bad. That'd be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're actually in perfect proximity. Did you know that if our planet moved ever so closer to the sun or ever so far, we
Yeah.
are in perfect
That's what I
proximity.
mean. So too much of your
Yeah.
energy, it would be bad. It would yeah.
Well, she didn't think
She's
so.
right. She's right. Yeah.
I knew people thought that actually. It was shocking to hear this broad, blurted out. But I knew people thought that. I'd had questions over my lifetime. And about having kids and about how were my siblings afraid, that they were carriers. And so I knew it. I still was shocked by it. And years went by, still didn't have much to do with her. I kind of thought I'd just let it go because, I'm above that. And then we were going to my stepdaughter's wedding in my husband's ex's, home field in California. And I was like, uh-oh. Because I obviously had held on to my resentment, I'm not one with you. I don't know. I didn't know I'd done that until I realized I was going to have to spend a weekend with her. And she was very, no editor, she just, whatever. And I thought, I don't want to ruin my stepdaughter's wedding. She has some beefs against me and against my husband. I was going, oh, wow, this could be bad. So I'm talking to a friend of mine going, what do we do? How do I prepare for this woman? And she says, Jewel, remember, you got to connect with her on a soul level. Because she's just like you. She's one with you, remember? I was like, oh, right. I forget. So I decide I'm going to have a soul-to-soul conversation with Anne, I'm going to call her, every night until I can find common ground with her. Because it's got to be there. It's got to be there. She's human. we share that. We're part of the same human family. So I go to bed the first night and I'm like, oh my God, what could it, like what? Like, oh, she was humiliated as a kid. I know some about her childhood. Like, I can relate to that. So I start talking to her in my mind in this imaginary conversation, going, wow, I was really shamed. Physically by doctors, I was studied, photos were taken of me naked. I mean, I was shamed for this construct. Nobody was like, yeah, different body, cool. No. It was all like, ooh, I wish we could fix that. How do we fix that? So I could relate to a lot of stuff from her past. So I started talking to her in my mind, and she starts tearing up, and I start tearing up, and I feel connected, and then we start laughing. In my mind, I'm like, let's just laugh about this. It's all BS. It's all our belief systems about not being enough. And so I end our conversation. We're laughing and we're hugging like sisters. Now, the next night, I try again. I go on parenting. I can relate to her. She was a single mom and had to be tough. So I started telling her, I had no idea how hard it was. I thought I was a great parent until I had kids. And then I was like, wow, this is really hard. And by the end of it, we're laughing and crying and hugging, and she apologizes. I always have her apologize because that feels really good because I know that's not going to happen. And a couple of nights, I start doing this to her. I started saying, remember when you did that and you wouldn't let her come for the wedding and you wouldn't let her come for Christmas, and her daughter. And you told her bad things about us, and then I go, whoa. Remember, you're looking for common ground with people. So I went back. I was like, right. Okay. Just life. Life is challenging. And your only daughter's getting married. This must be, and she's moving out at the same time. And so we ended, crying, laughing, hugging, and she apologizes. And maybe 2 months go by. And I'm feeling so much better because I've already opened my heart, so I'm not going to hate her anymore for just being who she is. And we're flying out to California, and I still have this ink, if she says anything or pulls anything, it's okay because I've now seen something beautiful in her. And I'm going to hold that space for her, with her, for me. I don't want to go into any ugliness, and if it happens, I can accept her still. So if I don't go there with her, it takes two to fight, right? Not that I've ever fought with her, but I have these fears. So we're driving up to the reception hall where we're going to help decorate. It's the day before the wedding, or it's 2 days before. And I hear Bill, my husband, is driving, and we pull in, and he says, oh my God, there's Anne. It's like she's waiting for us. She's out in the parking lot by herself. How did she know when we were arriving? We pull up and my heart starts like, oh God, is she there to start something? So I'm gonna greet her with a hug and a hi, and I get out of the car and slam the door. I'm like, I'm going! And I don't notice there's a little curb. And my clog, it gets stuck on it, and I start, and I'm stumbling right toward her, like a projectile. Or that's how it feels. I mean, I may be embellishing that just a little. But when you're falling, you're going, I'm falling, oh my God. And I have replacement hips and knees, so I don't have flexibility, so I can't catch myself. I fall like a tree. And it's not pretty. Usually something gets hurt. I scrape my hands, or my shoulders get jammed back, and they're arthritic. So all of this is going on in my forehead, and I'm falling at the feet of my enemy. No, I didn't think enemy at that time. I really didn't. But when I look back, and I'm going down, and all of a sudden, can you guess what happened? She caught me. The devil caught me. She lifted me up. We hugged and we laughed. And I apologized. I did not see the manifestation I'd been visualizing until I was on my way home on the airplane. I was like, well, that went well. And I'm looking back over it, I'm going, oh, we hugged and we laughed and I apologized. Like, wow, that is amazing. This is the kind of power we wield when we're really pushed to the... Because I haven't had something that sort of quick happen in a while. That was kind of my pinnacle example of when we really set our powerful consciousness to the task and we say, I'm going to stay open and whatever comes, but I'm going to bring my full self to the plate and be there. Whoa. People will be different. Things change. And oh my gosh, you know what happened that weekend? She was a really kind hostess. I have never heard her be kind to me or my husband on the phone any other time. She always kind of, if I had to talk to her about the plane coming in that her daughter was on or whatever it was, she would always get in kind of a jab. Because she just wanted to know she was suffering. And what's that line about we're always speaking our trauma? Yeah, I mean, she was traumatized. And she just, whenever she could, she got it in there. So this kind woman was like, who are you? I've never met you. My husband was like, who is that? And when he gave his toast to his daughter, my husband, it was really beautiful and heartfelt. And he hadn't even rehearsed it. He really spoke from his love for her. And she came over to me after it was done, put her hands on my shoulder, whispered in my ear, you must be so proud of him. Her ex, who she dissed like every day she could. I was like, I am, yes I am. Thank you. And then he told me later she told him the same thing. So it was like, success! That weekend was out of proportion beyond what I ever hoped it could be. Anybody have an example of where they changed their mind, they changed their perspective, and suddenly the outside world also looked really different? Like Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And in this case, Anne, morphed in was she the same person? I mean, did I change her? Did she change because it was her only daughter and she wanted to find common ground? I don't know. I know I changed it for me because I'm in charge of this and that's it. Anybody else have something like that happen?
So I did that 3 years ago with my husband. I always felt that he was in lack. He wasn't doing something. Now we had twins and a second, 22 months later, a third, 22 months later, second pregnancy. So we had lots of young kids. That was very stressful. But I took a class with Teresa Graham Brett and Joshua. Joshua happens to be in the room. And we sat on the phone while I was in Palo Alto, California, embarking my unschooling journey. And we talked a lot about, just changing your perspective on how things happen in your life. And I decided to look at everything my husband did as, additive, meaning, well, he took the garbage out 5 days this week, maybe, or 5 days in the last 5 months, or whatever it is. Like, you just look at the positive. And I just started changing it. And within 30 days or 60 days, he became so much more loving, and more happy. It was the wildest thing. And
you didn't feel your judgment anymore.
Right, exactly.
So
there
his
was no
soul could be
expectation.
like, whoa.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just, and then you revert back to old ways, and then
Yeah.
you realize, well, I don't like going back to old ways.
Yeah.
So you start bringing that positive mental attitude back into it. And now we're 3 years later, and I have to tell you, our relationship is solid. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, I love this man so much. I really do. Maybe I get bummed out that I have to bring the garbage cans out once in a while, but it's still not a big thing. And I just mentioned this to Jerry the other day, when we do get kind of pissy at each other, we start laughing within a minute and a half. Because do you feel better now? It's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And so we don't carry any anger.
Yeah.
We kind of talked once about having a special word that you could say that would just diffuse,
Yeah.
like bananas. Like
Banana.
if someone's starting to come at you about something, you say bananas, and it's like, it's just a realization that you're entering into old tapes. And we never really had to invoke that, but now we kind of just chuckle, and that kind of is the indicator that, hey, now you're in your tapes. We might say that sometimes. But it's like, I mean, it's provided a platform for us to start exercising together. We, you know, I realized that his love language is affirmations. And I now publicly affirm him on Facebook, which is also, I am not an affirmations person. You can ask my kid. Like, it is very difficult for me to broadcast what I think. But that's why I do this. No, meaning about how much I care about other people, right? The emotional parts, right? And I do that. So, and it's paid back in spades. I mean, seriously, it's amazing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't imagine being with anyone else. He can't imagine being with, like, it's just really wonderful. And it's really crazy because all it started with was a change in perspective to look at the positive versus the negative. However, I was mentioning this yesterday, I now have empathy for anyone, even people who are mean to me. Like, I immediately go to empathy because I'm like, you know what? You're speaking your tongue. You know, you have this energy and you're putting your stuff on me. I'm not going to take it, so I don't have to take the bad energy.
Yeah.
And I can immediately be empathetic, saying, wow, that must really bother you.
Yeah.
Right? I just immediately reflect it back to them because I know it's not about me, so I don't get upset about people being upset. And I have to say, when you do that, as you well know, people react to you so well. Like the people in this hotel have been so bending over backwards to help me do things, and I'm not even asking for anything, but they're all extremely nice. And, you know, like, it's been really wonderful, every interaction. So I think that energy shows through.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband and I shop at the same grocery store, and he always gets the cranky cashier. And I'm like, really? Do we go to the same shop, right? Because they're always so kind to me. But he gets irritated with the end of shopping because of the money, you know, and he always finds the product that's labeled wrong, or, you know.
Or it finds him.
It finds him! So, it's such a handy, it's not just a airy-fairy woo-woo, this is a daily thing, you know, looking for how do we bring our greatest self to the stage, to wherever we're going, even if it's grocery shopping. Especially if it's grocery shopping.
The mundane.
Because if you can make the everyday, the DMV, feel like a party. Or anywhere you're going where you're like, ugh. If you can bring something different, and it's sometimes hard, but it pays off. It does pay off.
I dance in public. I dance in public. I do. You want to make people laugh and
Oh yeah,
smile
down the aisle in the
like
grocery
that you're
store.
doing something.
If a song comes
I put
on, you don't do that.
headphones in.
I start
love it.
singing it.
I figure I can bring joy, even if they laugh at me,
Right.
it took them out of their reverie. I learned that from my daughter.
Yeah.
My daughter once ran down the street with butterfly wings. It was at rush hour, it was at 6 a.m. in the morning, everybody's going to the commuter rail.
Aw.
And every person who passed her came out of their reverie of stress and looked at her joy
Yeah.
and was completely, just lifted. And I was like, why can't I do that? I mean, I can do that. Right? I can lift people.
Exactly.
This one.
Speaking of a butterfly, there she is.
Yeah.
And I mentioned in my other session about the RAS. It's a part of your brain. It's called the reticular activating system. That its job is to take the 60,000 bits of data that are hitting us every day. It's probably more than that. And whittle it down to a manageable size. So it has to choose. And it chooses what we're focused on, what interests us, and our belief systems, whether they're positive or negative. So I use the example of we got a new car in our family, and I'd never seen it before. And then after we had it, I saw it everywhere. What is this? So that's my RAS. It's suddenly like, oh, HHI, there it is. HHI, there it is. Same thing happens with, when I felt, oh, I'm just birth defect, ugly. I would find the people who affirmed that to me. And now I'm like, yay, looking for parties, and I find those people. So here's a quick example of the RAS working. So I'm gonna ask a question, and then I'm gonna count just for 10 seconds while you all do something, and then when I say stop, stuff. So, how many blue things are in the room? Count them. Go. Just count the blue things. Sure, whatever. Okay, stop. So now, without looking around, how many pink things are in the room? The RAS is like, what? I was looking for blue. We have very limited focus. And in many ways, that's a good thing because we'd go crazy if we didn't. But when we're looking for the cashier who's going to piss us off, that's what we find. When we're looking for the ex who's going to give us trouble every time we're on the phone, that's what we're going to find. If we take time beforehand and consult with our inner self, our intuition, our GPS, and say, what do I want to find? What do I want to see? How do I want to live? Our RAS starts locking in on that. And maybe the RAS is neutral, so it really doesn't, it's not judging, good or bad. If you're looking for, well, I'm not good enough, but it's unconscious, but you think people are going to affirm that, unfortunately. I mean, fortunately, though, too, because it's showing our power. We're being reflected back. Our soul is always reflecting back to us who we are in that moment, who we think we are, and we're much more than that. I'm much more than this. This body, gets me where I want to go, but it's not the final verdict. What I'm thinking is not the final verdict. What I'm doing is not the final verdict. But who I am, present here in this moment, fully aligned and connected with other hearts, other human hearts, that are my brothers and sisters, that we are one on some higher level, then I'm living. I'm alive.
Because Pastor got 2, but I got 4.
Let's read the quotes that were on your seat. I find inspiring quotes can just lift my energy if I'm feeling low. I may even just think of one and go, right. This is what I want to set my RAS on. This is what I want my soul to be. Oh, here.
I got another under here.
Oh, there's one right here. Amy Sue, do you have one?
Anybody else need one?
Is there any more?
Oh, there. Have what?
A green purse. Oh, we were looking for blue, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm like,
I see a green cat.
Oh, maybe if you see Christina, you can give it to her if you see her.
I don't use a purse anymore.
it looks like a purse. Around here, any bag is a purse.
Sorry, if you see Christina, just give it to her immediately with a hug and have her.
Oh, it's Christina's birthday. All right, so you want to start, Terry?
Sure.
We're just going to go around, and you guys in the audience just take every other, come on in.
Don't worry if you're making waves simply by being yourself. The moon does it all the time.
I don't really want to become normal, average, standard. I want merely to gain in strength and the courage to live out my life more fully, enjoy more, experience more. I want to develop even more original and more unconventional traits.
Self-love is not selfish. You cannot serve from an empty vessel.
Bounty of the universe is with you all, with all of you. You must step aside and let it come. Trust it and light a candle in your home. Make an altar and place the picture of yourself when you were young, and thank yourself for your courage, beauty, and enormous sense of purpose.
Parents often think that they are here to guide you in life, when in reality there is a one and charity to guide you.
There is more to you than your thoughts. You are peaceful underneath your thinking mind.
Dear human, you've got it all wrong. You didn't come here to master unconditional love. That is where you came from and where you'll return. You came here to learn personal love, universal love, messy love, sweaty love, crazy love, broken love, whole love, confused with divinity. Lived through the grace of scumming, demonstrated through the beauty of messing up. Often, you didn't come here to be perfect. You already are. You came here to be gorgeously human, flawed, and fabulous, and then to rise again into remembering.
Pain pushes until vision pulls.
There is a lot we can learn from our children. Find what makes us happy and move forward.
Did these guys?
Oh, that's okay. You just
You're busy.
I am my best work. A series of roadmaps, reports, recipes, doodles and prayers from the front lines.
Treating yourself like precious object will make you strong.
Self-love is not selfish. Do not start to see that.
I needed to hear that one again.
I know.
Good.
This is a double secret exercise. Pretend you just received a phone call with wonderful, mind-blowing, life-changing news. As you put down the receiver, your arms fly up over your head with joy, pumping fists, then waving palms like you just crossed the finish line before throngs of adoring fans. You're grinning, crying, and just so happy. Yes, life is awesome and you feel so grateful.
A setback is a setup for a comeback. That is part of the beauty of all literature. You discover that your longings are universal longings, that you're not lonely and isolated from anyone. You belong.
That's cool. Our kids have come to rescue us from our own forgetting.
And look at the author of that one.
None of the women I most admired for their wisdom and strength got that way by having stuff always work out in their favor.
When I accept myself, I'm free from the burden of needing you to accept me.
Bees can fly 12 miles without getting lost. Albatrosses, 25,000 miles. And flying insects without eyes have no trouble whatsoever finding their soulmates. Imagine what the universe can do for you when you listen to the voice within.
Don't move the way fear makes you move. Move the way love makes you move. Move the way joy makes you move.
Don't worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one?
I offer you peace, I offer you love, I offer you friendship, I see your beauty, I hear your need, I feel your feelings, my wisdom flows through the highest sources. I salute that source in you. Let us work together for unity and love.
You were once wild hair. Don't live in
Affirm to others the vision of the world you want. You are a free, immensely powerful source of life and goodness. Affirm it, spread it, radiate it. Think day and night about it, and you will see a miracle happen. The greatness of your own life.
Your job, your invitation from the universe is to give people back to themselves.
The world doesn't need the plastic version of you. What we are hungry for is the medicine of presence, generously given through the broken, imperfect, glorious, and fully alive.
I want to wake up feeling that the world couldn't make it without me.
It's not our job to toughen our children up to face a cruel and heartless world. It's our job to raise children who will make the world a little less cruel and heartless.
Just remember, the gatekeeper who will give you what you desire is the same gatekeeper who has kept it from you.
People take different roads, seeking fulfillment and happiness. Just because they're not on the road, your road, doesn't mean they've gotten lost.
Trust children. Nothing could be more simple or more difficult. Difficult because to trust children, we must first trust ourselves. And most of us were taught as children that we could not be trusted.
If you are present now, you will have time to do everything you always wanted to do.
Prayer is sitting in silence until it silences us. The story you tell is the basis of your life, so tell it the way you want it to be.
There are those who see. Sorry,
No, go ahead.
There are those who see the world as it is and ask why, and there are those who see the world as it could be and ask why not.
Do you know what's 1,000,000 times better than getting to the top of the mountain? Getting there after having been lost.
We find comfort among those who agree with us, growth among those who don't.
Even though you may want to move forward in your life, you may have one foot on the brakes. In order to be free, we must learn how to let go. Release the hurt, release the fear. Refuse to entertain your old pain. The energy it takes to hang on to the past is holding you back from a new life. What is it you would let go of today?
This is a comment. How many of you have read A Course in Miracles? The book? There's a book, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but I keep running into that title.
Ah.
Something's calling me to read that book. And I just saw that and it just blew me away.
Another one.
Man, that course I could have been today. I was here, and that reference just hits me like a ton of bricks.
Wow.
So, okay, I'll read it.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's it.
Note to self, Course in Miracles.
I know. That's just crazy.
No, that's cool. And that's alignment.
That's how the
just
universe talks.
I can feel a warmth inside. Yeah, it's crazy.
They're back.
Yeah, crazy good. Scary good, actually. It's like, why should I do? Something's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's a belief system right there. Yeah. The other shoe will drop.
And it has come up, I don't mean to go on and on, but I have read other books, and a book that I'm reading, just randomly picked from a used bookstore, says A Course in Miracles. And it'll reference A Course in Miracles, and I'm like, what? How did this happen? So, okay, I'll read it. I guess.
You have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens.
Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel.
Not follow where the path they lead. Go instead where there is no path and lead the trail.
You have been assigned this mountain to show others it can be moved.
When you are born in a world you don't fit in, it's because you were born to help create a new one.
Anyone resonate with one of those in particular and want to share what it said to you, what it meant?
To choose.
You have a few?
Oh, almost everything.
Oh, good.
You could have a course on just every one of these. You could
Yeah,
have a
it's true.
complete- Yeah, I mean, you could do a whole presentation on just one of these.
Yeah.
It really is. That's why I love quotes, because they're so profound.
Which one speaks to you?
Well, when I accept myself, I'm free from the burden of needing you to accept me as
Yeah.
like one of my epiphanies in life. I know I've talked to people here, like an example of unschooling. Like before I had that confidence and accepted that what I was doing was totally right for my awesome children who turned out so terrible from it, as you could tell. I was coming in wanting to take pictures of my tattoo. But anyways, then I would get together with extended family in the first couple of years, and everything they said, would make me doubt myself, and I felt very defensive, like I had to explain unschooling philosophy to them, and then they'd still be like, and then I'd feel like, oh, am I doing the wrong things? And now, like, you could say anything to me about my parenting, it rolls off because I don't need anyone else's approval. I'm very confident in that area of my life. And so, and then, I think that is very true for when you see friends or people struggling. It reminds me of the high school experience when I see somebody being cruel to them and all they want is for that person to accept them. And I keep wanting to,
you don't need their acceptance. Who cares about them?
Yeah, it's in here that needs the change.
And so I guess once you have that, and then, so when I was actually thinking about a friend when we read it, and I was thinking, maybe that's, because I always tell her in words, you know, like, why do you care what those people think of you? And so I thought maybe I don't need to be saying that to her in words. Maybe I just need to be energetically like,
yeah, you stay
encouraging
alive.
her to
Yeah.
to accept herself because she's such a beautiful person. And so, anyways, it's a really cool quote.
Yeah. Wayne Dyer uses the metaphor of an orange. He says if you take an orange and you like pound it down, you roll it around, you yell at it, you spit on it, what's inside that will come out is orange juice. It's going to be the same, whatever happens out here. It's what's inside that is making us who we are. So if your friend is feeling the acceptance is not coming from out there, it's because it's in here that is her juice that she needs to claim and honor and accept. And you can't change, you know, the orange juice is not going to really change because of what's going out there. It's because of what we've allowed in.
Yes, and that's totally true. Exactly what the people that she wants to have accept her hate her for her ethnicity. And so I guess inside there's that self thing. And if they just say, well, no, that I'm okay for being a Palestinian and an Arab, then I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's such a trap.
It is.
People said I was okay, and I was still like, yeah, you're just saying that. You know, well, you have to love me, you're my mom. So it bounced off me, because I didn't believe it.
Right.
Anybody else have a quote that resonated?
The last one. If you're born into a world you don't fit in, it's because I think that's kind of like
That's what we're doing, totally.
But I also could change out the word world for family. Or like if you're born into a family, because I feel I don't really fit in I have a good relationship with my family. We're not on bad terms, but they're all Republicans.
Enough said.
And,
Are they voting for Trump?
My parents are not, but my grandparents and my brother-in-law are. So it's really a hard time in my life. But we're vegan and they're not, and we're like atheists and unschoolers, and we're like all of these kind of like outer things, but like we're just a small family of 3 people, but within that little space, like we've created this family that we feel like we all fit into, and that's kind of the powerful way to heal from feeling like I didn't fit in with my family. Now I have this family that not only do I fit into it, but I'm like a pretty important part of it.
Yeah, and you're creating as you go. You're not saying, ooh, I want to be this mold, or I want to fit that one, or do that. You guys are trailblazers. We don't know where this goes, really. We have some pioneers before us who have, managed to raise their children and unschool them, and great things have happened. But we don't have a long history of knowing what's the outcome. So we all are pretty courageous, taking these, new steps in many ways, being the outliers, living outside the lines, creating a path where folks can follow. What's that last one about? I love you've been assigned this mountain to show others it can be moved. Sometimes it feels like a mountain with my family or friends, or when they don't question me often, but when it happens, it feels like, gosh, it's a bigger thing than I realize, because I'm in my own bubble, thinking, things are so great, and I look out at the world and wonder what minority are we? We seem kind of small, and yet we feel really big in my mind, because when you take a step in the direction that the culture is not taking, I think it's like 50 steps, and more, it's bigger. It's braver, it's bolder. It's like one person stating a truth or one person being loving can overcome 50 hatreds or 50, criticisms. Because love is that powerful. Love is that, it's that connection with our true self, who we came to be. We didn't come to be sheep. And we know that because when we act like sheep or we're in a family where we don't fit in, it feels bad. It doesn't jive with some yearning and desire and calling inside of us for more or for different. And the different can be great. I didn't grow up hearing different can be great. Did you? I mean, that...
No. Immigrant kid who can speak the language in the 70s.
Yeah.
When you grow up telling your kids that different can be great,
Yeah.
how does that, because my oldest is hitting the middle school years pretty hard. Well, she's actually almost out of them. I guess she's in 8th grade. But she's in that sort of middle part. Like, what's the response? Because sometimes from her, she'll have had a really bad day, she comes home crying, whatever, and it's because she just wants to fit in. Like, there's this drive there. And,
But she's engaging the school world. She's engaging the school. You should explain that
she engages in the school world. The school world, it's not so much. It's mostly, honestly, it's the fencing. It's the fencing world where,
she's often with the Muggle world.
Yeah, so she spends a lot of time with the Muggle world, which I think is a great way to say it. But it's like, when you're interacting and she just wants to fit in and, repeating over and over again to a 13-year-old, like, you weren't born to fit in, you were born to stand out.
Yeah.
Like, what did you say to your son when his friend called you ugly? Like,
Yeah.
how does your son react to that?
Well, it's really
I
interesting.
understand it was hurtful to you, and I get
Yeah.
how you reacted to it, but how did your son react to that? And how did
He knew that his Jeremiah was just trying to get him.
Okay.
He knows Kai loves me.
Yeah.
And so how can I best get back at Kai for calling me something Kyler had surely called him something. He didn't tell me that part of it, of course.
What were you doing?
But I've seen them interact, and they get their, and they start with insults to try and see who can outdo the other. So I'm sure Kyler said something, and Jeremiah's like, what can I wield at him that will hurt him most? Ooh, Mama's ugly. Mama wears army boots. So that's what it was. And there was even a part of me as I heard the story that knew that. Like, there's a part of us that's wise and quiet and is like, oh, that wasn't you. That was just, he knew that would hurt and he needed to hurt him in that moment.
Yeah.
My kids, I remember one time I walked outside and there was a new kid with the group of all the kids. They know me, they're used to me, they don't see me as different. And there was a new kid though, and my radar went up because I can tell who's going to give me a hard time. There's just something I built in over the years. I saw him and I went, ooh, trouble with a capital T. But I had to bring something to my son, and there was a part of me that wanted to shrink away because in the old days I would just hide. I would not engage. I'm like, nope, let him see me. So I hand something to my son and I see this kid do this. And he's like, let me get a better view, he gets the way some kids do. And I see him, and I smile at him, and then I turn around to walk away, and I hear him say to my son, who was at the time 8, he says, is that your mother? And my son goes, oh yeah, she's a dwarf. Just like, she's got blonde hair. And the other kid was like, huh. Because it was the energy of acceptance from my son. I'm assuming that it was just like no big deal. The other kid had nothing to bounce off of. If my son, as I had done when I was younger, be like, what of it? It would have created whatever, a competition or it was dropped.
Yeah. Does your daughter have like unschooled community, like unschooled kids?
We live in a good community. She doesn't get picked on much for being unschooling. It's.
Yeah, but I mean, like, does she have friends that are unschooled?
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
But this is the age.
It's like a weird age. Like, and when she's like, I want to fit in, I'm like, dude, you're an unschooled fencer. Like,
do you validate though? Do you validate?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
She just needs to vent. She's
She
not
just
always
needs to
thinking
vent,
that.
and I give her empathy and whatever. I just wonder, like, when you really are, if you're raising kids, and we're all doing it, who really are that sort of outstanding in the sense, I mean, obviously they're all outstanding. Like, this is what we're facing. When they hit that age of, I just want to fit in, I just want to keep empathizing with you want to fit in, but I want to keep encouraging, like.
Yeah. And she's hearing you. She's hearing you.
You're out there, dude. Let's do it. You know.
The two teens, I don't feel. That's why I asked about community because I
How old are yours? Are they
16 and 13?
So you have one that's older.
Yeah.
And sort of through it.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, I just don't. I feel like, especially with my oldest, that she saw because she was a dancer, and so she was seeing.
She
Oh my
saw
gosh,
the
the
world.
southern dance world is just like, but she would come back and be like, do you know what they do in high school? These girls told me that like the seniors like do this hazing of the freshmen. Like she was mortified that kids thought
Yeah.
because that's not what she's seen. But I was thinking, why is that? And I think like she's always had unschooled friends and been in community with people where it's okay not to be the same.
Yeah.
And she saw that negativity, and she didn't want to fit in with that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
So-
and mine will tell me like she didn't want to deal. We had this conversation in another group about my kid, or the introvert extrovert. My kid wants to talk deeply. She doesn't like sort of the
Chatter.
social chatty stuff, and so she'll be like, "Mom, what kids talk about these days?" Like, I just whatever.
So she doesn't want to fit in with that.
No, she doesn't, but she kind of
She wants
does.
to be accepted,
you know?
maybe not.
Yeah.
Did you go through this phase of, wanting to fit in? And
Doesn't everybody kind of?
yeah.
I think everybody does, and I definitely.
Are you not remembering?
No, I was very, very bullied in middle school. I had
Oh,
to
so
change
you-
schools,
you
and it
did-
was over a shirt. Like, honestly, when I was in middle school, I needed to have a Benetton shirt. Does anyone here mind?
Yes, I had Benetton.
Do you remember, like, they had the solid color collars, and whatever color your collar was is what it said Benetton. It was like a rugby type shirt. And I needed the shirt, but they were like $60 or something, which I grew up on a farm. I can assure you I never spent $60 on a shirt.
On a shirt.
But I begged for the shirt. I needed the shirt because I had to fit in at school.
Yes.
Like, it was awful.
Have you told her that story?
I have.
Oh, good.
And I got it for Christmas. I got a blue Benetton shirt. It was the only thing I got for Christmas that year. That was it. Everything else was empty, but I got this Benetton shirt. It was at a time when my grandmother lived with us, and after Christmas, but before I went back to school, my grandmother washed my shirt.
Oh, no.
The whole thing turned pink, the collar was purple, like, it was awful. But it was a Benetton shirt, right? Like, if I wore the shirt, I would be okay, right? Not so much. It was not any longer the right shirt. So I actually had to transfer school, so I get it. But I don't want her to go through that.
I know, we all don't. We want to
Embrace
think
yourself,
maybe there's
dude.
a shortcut. But
There's not.
doesn't seem to be, because this is what we signed on to go through, all this hazing, all of this identifying with out there instead of finding in here. And it's part of also the reunion is the separation,
Yeah.
is learning what we're not. I think I'm out there, I think I'm in you, I think I'm in that. I think I'm my thoughts. And as they start to call it home, it means twice as much because she actually went through it.
Yeah.
She can't just take it from you and be like, right, Mom says I accept myself and therefore I do.
Yeah.
That will not be wisdom.
Yeah.
It won't be earned. The way it will be that she's going through this, or she has her Benetton experience
Yeah.
that she can remember and share later, and everybody goes, yes, oh my God, did we come from this? Yeah, I guess so.
It's maybe like slightly off topic, but I feel like the girl bullying thing is a really, really big thing in the homeschool community here in New York. And, I feel like there needs to be more of a group like this for girls to hear these stories, maybe from women who have gone through it, or some kind of language of how to, love yourself in those moments and know how to treat yourself in a loving way when being faced with that kind of treatment, even from middle school. So, I don't know if this is the right time to bring that up, but it's been coming up in my homeschooling circle.
And I hear you, and obviously, I mean, I went through it, but the difference was back then, I went home, and my school was an hour away. I did not socialize with these people. I went home, the phone was a thing attached to a wall. With if I didn't answer it, I didn't answer it, right? So it's like the bullying was in school, and I got to go home. And nowadays, like the urge to fit in, it's texting, it's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's whatever, and it's 24/7.
Yeah.
So I think it's harder now.
World's going.
Yeah.
That's how unschoolers connect on the internet.
Yep.
And like kids with their crazy, and I don't mean crazy in a bad way, like how they're really unique hobbies and the way that they are, they find people that say that's okay, and we get through it and we make YouTube videos about it.
Yeah.
And when the kids start to set their own, their RAS, their intention on, they're sick and tired of this catty behavior or whatever's going on, they will start to experience something different. I had nobody telling me these things, but I got so sick of it. It's all I can think, because people have asked me, well, what was the pivotal moment? What happened that turned you around? And all I can say is it was like our highest self is always calling us to something greater and better. And sometimes the worse off we are, the more desperate we are, the more we'll listen. And sometimes you have to hit bottom, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom. I know we don't want our kids to have to do that. And I think we've given them, a foundation where they may not have to go into that utter sadness, depression, bullying. But we don't have control over it. It is their path.
I think we've given them more tools. I mean, obviously, than we were all given.
Yeah.
And I have a son, so he kind of has gone through the same stuff. But now he's going on 19, and he probably a good year wanted to be like everybody else, because he played hockey, so it was like, he got in a lot of trouble because of some of these children, and he had to pay for it, and so he, just working through, he trusts them through everything else. He came out the other side going, I'm awesome, and these people are basically idiots. I'm doing my thing. If they're going to be getting in trouble and going to prison or jail or whatever, that's not what I want to do. It's not a choice of mine. And so they kind of picked it up a lot faster, I'm sure, than we ever did anyway.
Yeah.
And I look at him and I go, wow, it took me, 4 years.
Thank you all.